Russ Smith,
Aye.
Councilperson Valerie Leary, Kathy Warwick, Councilperson Susan Sato, City Administrator Bill Barthel, and myself as Council President.
Don't forget Russ.
I said Russ.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that.
We're gonna do the second reading of this ordinance for Penn Farm. I'm gonna ask you, Mr. Barthel, to read this. I'm having a very hard time with my bifocals and being able to look down and read. So if you would assist me on that, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely, Mr. President.
Council President, are we able to make a motion to dispense with the second reading?
This is, if I may, it's a reading for the public hearing. The second
Okay.
reading is in the next,
Okay.
is on the is on the normal, the next
Normal
meeting.
reading, right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, ordinance 533. This is an ordinance to amend section 230-15 of the city code to permit expansion of the existing farmhouse structure on the Penn Farm number 6 property, tax parcel 21-009.00-002 for use as a farm office, business office, administrative office, archive storage, boardroom, and meeting rooms for the trustees of the Newcastle Common, and to expand other permitted uses of the Penn Farm. Whereas the Penn Farm number 6 property, tax parcel 21-009.00-002, parentheses, the Penn Farm, end parentheses, comprises approximately 110 acres of land with a farmhouse structure in poor condition, barn structures and other related outbuildings designed for agricultural use. And whereas the Penn Farm is owned by the trustees of the Newcastle Common, the trustees, and whereas the Penn Farm is the only property in the city of Newcastle currently zoned AH, agricultural horticultural, as defined by section 213-15 of the zoning code. And whereas structures permitted on AH, agricultural horticultural, zoned land are limited by section 230-15 of the zoning code to a one-family dwelling per 100 acres of land. Accessory structures appropriate to and supportive of agricultural and horticultural uses, and one roadside or highway retail stand for the sale of farm produce. And whereas the trustees propose to improve, renovate, and expand the existing farmhouse at the Penn Farm so as to provide offices, meeting rooms, and a boardroom for the trustees' use in managing the farm and its other operations. And whereas the trustees further desire to use existing barn structures located on Penn Farm for purposes of permitting meetings, events, fundraisers, weddings, parties, and other public or private gatherings. And whereas the trustees further seek the right to use a roadside retail stand for food preparation and sale. Now, therefore, being by the same Council City of Newcastle as follows. Section 230-8B4 is hereby to add the following sentence at the end of that. The roadside retail stand may also be used for food sales. Section 2, section 230-15 is hereby amended to add a new subsection C as follows. C, notwithstanding anything in this section to the contrary, the following uses are permitted as a matter of right on the property known as Penn Farm number 6, tax parcel 21-009.00-002, also known as 807 Frenchtown Road, Newcastle, Delaware. 1, the existing house structure on Penn Farm number 6 may be expanded to no more than 5,000 square feet and may be used as farm, business, office, administrative office, archive storage, boardroom, and meeting rooms for use by the trustees of the Newcastle Common, owner of the property, and for private or public gatherings as authorized by the trustees of the Newcastle Common and otherwise permitted by applicable law. 2, the barns existing on Penn Farm number 6 is used as farm barns and as authorized by the trustees of the Newcastle Common for meetings, events, fundraisers, weddings, parties, and other public or private gatherings. Section 3, if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section, then any existing ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance shall be controlled immediately upon passage. First reading, May 27th, 2021, and the second reading, June 8th, 2021.
Hey, Mr. Barthel, I see the mayor joins us. Welcome. I also see Chris Castagna in the gallery. If we could let him in so he can explain what the trust wants to do.
Bringing him into the meeting. He just needs to unmute.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted. Good evening, Mr. Castagna.
This is Chris Castagno speaking. Mr. President, members of council, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Administrator, Mr. Solicitor, thanks for the opportunity to address you all. The ordinance language was very descriptive and very accurate for what the trust intends to do. The points I just wanted to accentuate here are that the original zoning code was written, classification description was written in 1994 around the uses that were on the farm at that time. Since 1994, the uses of the farm have evolved. Many of you have been to the barn, an adaptively reused structure on the farm that it's now used for events. Many of you have been to the Wheelies farm stand where you may have had a prepared sandwich. So the uses have evolved over time, adaptively. The trust has invested to make those structures workable. The ordinance, I would also point out, is limited to the expansion of uses to the structures only. It has nothing to do with the land or the farming. The trust intends to keep this as a working farm for eternity. The use of the farmhouse, the intent is that, as described in the ordinance, as a farm office, business office, boardroom, other meeting rooms, archive storage, and the like. So that's all I have to add to what's already been said.
Mr. Castagna, any questions from council for Mr. Castagna?
I have one. Mr. Castagno, in terms of the archives, is it the intent of the trust to move all of the archives to that building, even those that are currently housed in the state archives in Dover, or only the more recent material?
That's a good question. The answer is no. The ones in Dover are the most critical to the trust corporation, and the state is best equipped to handle that. The board currently stores archives in one of its buildings on 3rd Street, what we call the old library. We have some archives stored in the new library. We are working with an archive specialist to identify the proper storage. Actually would improve where they currently are, frankly, with our new plan. So the idea is to move the working archives, those that we reference all the time, so that we can use them for our business decision making.
Thank you, Mr. Castagna. Anyone else? Kim, is there anybody from the gallery that would like to speak? I see Dorsey Fisk. Has her hands up. Could you let her in, please?
Sure, hold on 1 second.
Ms. Fisk and everybody else in the gallery, we're going to follow the same procedures as we do regular council meetings. Time limits will be 3 minutes. Mr. Smith, are you going to keep time for me?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
May I start?
You may start.
Well, I would like to point out that this is inaccurate. It says, whereas the Penn Farm is owned by the trustees of the Newcastle Common, it is not owned. It is managed by the trustees for the people of the town. So this is inaccurate. You need to change it, because if you don't, this is not going to be legal. Now, some of the trustees claim that they own the assets of the trust. They do not. They are trustees, and if you look at the documents of the trust, and of any trust, in fact, the trustee is a manager, a fiduciary who manages the property. They do own a piece of it, just as all of us do. They own exactly as much and no more than the rest of us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kim, could you mute her at this time? And then I see Phil Gross has his hand up.
Okay.
Good evening, council. I guess my point is, Stango's given this song Pony Show a couple times in meetings, and my honest opinion is there is zero reason for them to take down a house that they, as managers and stewards of our assets, the trustees put into request to have it, the houses on Penn Farms as basically posted as a historical property. And from other meetings, they've not proven that they can handle getting the house rebuilt right. My theory is they just want to move out of town and make it really difficult to have accessibility by the residents of the city. Whether it's meetings, they claim they're going to have meetings. For the last year, I and others have requested Zoom virtual meetings and they've refused. So there's absolutely no reason to believe that they're going to hold public meetings again. To tear down a building that's got significance to the city out of, I don't know, 12 or 13 farms, that's it. That's the last one. And if you as council allow them, Russ Smith being, someone that's a steward of history, I would think that you wouldn't vote any other way than against that, because nowhere in there does it reference the demolition of the older buildings from 1795 and 1810. It just says building another addition for their meetings and other things. I ask, I beg, I plead council to do the right thing. Separate yourselves from politics and do what's right for the residents of the city of Newcastle. Vote against the ordinance. Thank you.
Excuse me. Anyone else with comments from the gallery?
Don't see anyone else with their hand up.
Thank you, Kim. At this point, I think we can adjourn this meeting and council can discuss it in the regular council meeting, which it is brought up for an ordinance. So it can be discussed at that time amongst the council people. So I ask for a motion to adjourn this public hearing.
Mr. Brett, but I just do have a question. We have advertised this hearing as going until 7 o'clock. And so what about someone who wasn't able to log in at the beginning of the meeting and may wish to make a statement, but can't be here until closer to 7?
Fair enough.
Also, I'd like to verify, Mr. Gross referenced tearing down the house. I see nothing in this ordinance that references tearing down the house, really restoring it. Now, I understand some of the plans are to tear down some of the most dilapidated portions of the house. I don't know if that's something Mr. Castagno would care to speak to or not.
Ms. Otters, can I jump in there for a second? This is strictly just a change of use. There's nothing to do with the demolition, the construction, whatever. It is in front of HAC, and I think they would be more suitable to handle that. We are just changing basically the usage, and that happens throughout the city quite often.
You're correct, and I understand that we're not ruling on what's going to happen to the house, merely on the usage of it, not the design of any changes to it.
Correct.
But I guess the larger question that members of the public seem to have raised, both tonight and to me, and perhaps to some of you as well, is what would happen to the house if we don't pass this ordinance? I mean, some people seem to assume that then that means it would be restored to its previous standing, and I see nothing to indicate that that's the case. So it seems to me that my understanding is it's this ordinance to allow some relatively minor modifications of the use of the property, or do nothing, in which case, as far as I know, the house is just going to continue to deteriorate and fall apart. Am I correct or incorrect?
I think you are correct in that statement.
Actually,
if
Ms.
we're-
Souter, we have ended hearings if there is no one else present for anything, even if it ends at a shorter period of time. Mr. Lofco, is there anything to prevent that?
It's, this is Dan Losco. It's council's prerogative. You might want to make one final call to see if there are any members of the public who wish to speak to the matter. And it wouldn't be inappropriate if Mr. Castagno wanted to respond to Ms. Souter's questions. I mean, this is a public hearing, so it's an opportunity for some dialogue.
I'm sure I can respond. The matter in front of you is about the uses of the house. That's all I can comment on.
And if we like, we can continue this meeting till 7 o'clock and it would just save time, or it would make the regular meeting more efficient. If any other council people have any comments or whatnot, we can make them now and it would just make the meeting a little bit more efficient as we move forward into our regular meeting.
That makes sense to me rather than just sit here and wait until 7 o'clock.
Agreed. Mr. Smith, any comments?
On what? I don't understand. I do want to, are you, I'm sorry, I'm fighting off a cat here. Are you suggesting that we start the meeting early?
No, I'm not discussing that. I'm just saying we can discuss it now or discuss it in 12 minutes from now. It doesn't matter. This is an open forum. This is also an open forum.
Discuss the this particular matter?
Correct.
Well, if it's appropriate, yeah, I'd like to address this particular matter. I think it's very appropriate that a new use be found for historic buildings. I had the opportunity to see these buildings, and as I just want to say, as a preservationist, as somebody who's worked in preservations, I have to say there is very little historical integrity left in the property. That it probably could be the only thing that would keep it on the National Register is its location and form and function. And I think that an adaptive use with the type of uses that we're discussing is probably the best possible use in order to at least save the form of the buildings, and so that on the landscape, the buildings would look the same as they originally would. I know a lot of people assume the brick building is the original structure, and apparently it is not. And the 1795 structure doesn't say much about how well the trustees housed their tenants, I have to say that. But today, the termites have done their work, and there's just very little integrity in those buildings. So what's called an adaptive rehabilitation, no doubt would be the best possible use. And I don't see anyone else but the trustees coming forward to do such a thing.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anyone else?
Mike, the only thing I'll add is
Mr.
that I understand that this ordinance is only to add uses to an existing zoning category. I believe this property is the only property in that zoning category. And some of the uses that were added to it, it's already being used for anyway. And I do think that this is the best way for us to preserve the property. You know, we all know that it's in a state of disrepair. It's hard to justify large repairs without having a proper use identified for the parcel or for the property. So I don't see any issues with the ordinance myself.
Ms. Leary, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, I concur with Council Person Smith and Day. We've been, over the last decade, in fact, probably most of us here have attended events on that property or have purchased food, drink, beverage, vegetables, you name it, at the stand. So I really see this ordinance as updating just to its current uses that it has. As for the house, I had the privilege of going through the house, and again, I concur with Councilman Smith that there's the 1795 portion has very little left. It's aluminum siding over plywood with modern 2x4 in there with insulation. It's pretty dilapidated. Termites have had a feast in there. So, you know, adaptive use, adaptive reuse, adaptive anything is for this is I think a very good idea.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Just to give, an example for those who haven't seen the building, the 1795 building, large structural timbers in the building have been eaten by termites halfway up and more. I mean, they're gone halfway up. So the structural integrity is just, you can't, that's not something that you can restore. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can create a reconstruction, but that's basically what this would be, to try to make it, to have it look like it did originally in 1795.
Mr. President, just to be clear, though, this ordinance that we're going to vote on tonight does not give them the ability to demolish anything. They still have to go through HAC, right?
That is correct. I don't,
Okay.
Mr. Castagna could correct me on this, but I do not think they have to go through HAC. I think they're willing to work with HAC to go through it to make sure that things are properly done. But no, this ordinance is strictly a use ordinance. It has nothing to do with the construction. It has nothing to do with the shape of the building. It is strictly just changing the use, just modifying the use.
Upgrading.
Right, upgrading the use. Mr. Castagna, would you like to comment on that?
Well, parts of it, Mr. President, are correct in what you say, and that the ordinance in front of you today is about expanding the current uses of the different structures on the property. However, in 2016, the properties that are on the historic registry are also a HAC event, as I call them. We are in front of HAC, working through the particular issues. So.
Thank you.
And as far as the National Register is concerned, the federal government doesn't maintain any interest in the property by that designation. So there's the only influence that being on the National Register has is in for local folks or other folks to show their concern because of that. It's designated so people understand that it's important.
I got 6:57 on my phone or on my time. Well, why don't we recess this public hearing, and in 3 minutes we'll re-adjourn for our regular council meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.